Hey everyone, GamerJlee here, and now that the Xbox Game Showcase has come and gone and we have more of an idea of what Halo Infinite's multiplayer will look like, today I wanted to give you what my overall thoughts are of what we have seen over the past week. Now, before we get started, I want to say there will be some positive thoughts on Halo Infinite and there will be some negative thoughts about Halo Infinite. But I highly recommend you watch this video all the way through before typing any comments or even dropping a like or dislike on the video, because what I might say will more than likely shock you. But let's get started at the beginning of the week with the Xbox Bethesda Games Showcase, because this didn't do Halo Infinite any justice or favors. Don't get me wrong. The showcase, in my opinion, has been one of the best E3 presentations that we've seen so far from any of the big companies. I'm more excited now for Stalker 2, which I never even knew about was a game series, which I might actually pick up the first one that came out in 2007. What a great year. Party Animals, which I've seen gameplay of and it's very similar to Gang Beasts. Great game. Honestly, go look up the footage. It's pretty fun. And I'm actually pretty excited for Forza Horizon 5, which I enjoy more of its arcadey, fun gameplay and much more. But whoever was running the show only gave Halo less than 10 minutes of screen time? This is the game that is your biggest franchise and is supposed to be the console seller for Xbox, and at the most, they had about 7 minutes of screen time altogether. So if you cut out most of the talking, you get about 4 minutes of actual Halo gameplay and footage. Seriously? But within that short amount of time, we did get something. We got actually two things: a small glimpse into Halo Infinite's world and story, and a small, heavily edited trailer for Halo Infinite's multiplayer. Now, we'll get into all the multiplayer info, the whole blog series, as well as the overview later on, but let's start with the campaign trailer, which in my opinion, this was really good. And I don't really have that many negatives to say, but more so questions that I hope will be answered as time goes on and we get Halo Infinite in our hands. First, from what I can tell, this trailer takes place right after the Discover Hope trailer we saw back in 2019, which ended with Chief at the back of the Pelican ready to deal with whatever was waiting for him. And that seems to be what remains of the UNSC Infinity. As Chief moves through the debris field of the Infinity, there were things that I noticed that really shows his growth as a person. For example, something I noticed was how he would handle Marine bodies versus the banished bodies. When the Chief comes across one of the bodies of the Marines, he's respectful and careful with his fallen brother's body. Same when he comes across the dead Marine in the Warthog. He moves slowly, carefully, removing the assault rifle as he makes his way through the ship. Now compare that to how he treats banished bodies and
Let go of me! Damn it, bitch, I said let go!
Yeah. Another thing I noticed is how he has changed when it came to dealing with what we're now calling Cortana 2.0. This Cortana seems very similar to our own, but there's something about her that is different in a good way. She's not just a clone of Cortana. She seems less charismatic than Cortana and more follows orders and UNSC protocol, but she also seems to be green as an AI, like a newly trained Marine who doesn't know all the answers but knows her objective and her duty. For example, listen to this little back and forth between Chief and what we're calling Cortana 2.0, name pending.
My instructions were to enter this installation, imitate Cortana, and lock her down for retrieval. Yours were to take her back to the Infinity for deletion. So if it wasn't you... Okay then. There's something else. On successful deployment, my deletion routine was supposed to complete. Still here.
Good.
Good.
Something stopped your deletion. We need to find out why.
But this wasn't the mission.
The mission's changed. They always do.
Chief is more personal, more understanding, and knows that the mission changes. Objectives change, and explains how you have to evaluate, adapt, and overcome when the mission doesn't go as planned and your objectives change. To me, this was a really nice touch to show how the Chief has grown after Cortana and that he's continuing to grow with this new AI. Will this continue? Hopefully. Hopefully the game and the storytelling is as beautiful as this was, because this really made me interested in Infinite's story when we get it probably later this year, hopefully. And that's all I really have to say about the campaign section of the showcase. I wish we had gotten more info, but I didn't even expect that we would get any Infinite campaign info at all, as the showcase was more marketed and focused on multiplayer more than anything. Speaking of which, let's get into the Halo multiplayer reveal and the follow-up Waypoint blog, as this had things I liked, disliked, and some things that I think that they should have given more time to on the actual showcase. Now, remember how I said whoever was booking the Xbox Game Showcase didn't do Halo Infinite any favors? Well, this is kind of the primary example. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was great to finally see what Halo Infinite's multiplayer is going to look like, but it was kind of hard to get an accurate idea of what it's going to play like when all we got was a quick 2-minute trailer with consistent jump cuts. Now, if this was all we got this week and we didn't get the follow-up blog post or the multiplayer overview, I think there would have been a lot more outrage towards this. But here's my big question. This is your biggest platform of the year. This is, in the simplest of terms, Xbox's E3, and you don't give your biggest game more time to share the stuff that they were going to share the very next day with the multiplayer overview? I can tell you, as someone who was watching this live when I saw this trailer, I was getting constantly asked, what were my thoughts? Was it good? Was it bad? And the most I could say was, I don't know. Because this trailer, at least to me, didn't give me a solid idea of what the multiplayer would play like. It was a great hype package, but if you had followed up with the multiplayer overview right then, right there, I think it would have put Halo Infinite in the perfect place, because this would have reached Xbox's more common, most prominent fans. But the fact that essentially we got little to no information after this, and the only way you would have known about the blog post or the multiplayer overview would have been by following them on Twitter, was a tremendous missed opportunity in my opinion. But those are just my thoughts on how it was presented. What were the actual takeaways that I had from the trailer and the follow-up blog post? Well, first, some advanced movement from Halo 5 Guardians will be returning in Halo Infinite in the form of sprint, clamber, and sliding. Now, first off, sprint was kind of a no-brainer. It's been in the game since Reach and has been consistently in each follow-up Halo game, so it's sadly not going anywhere. Then you have clamber, which I was never a fan of in Halo 5, as I felt like it took away too much from the skill side of Halo and reduced things like skill jumping, which has been one of the key ways of movement in classic Halo games. Now, you could argue that in Halo 5 it had a purpose, as it could be combined with jump jets and thrusters to make even more wild skill jumps. But with Infinite, that's not the case, as thrusters and jump jets are nowhere to be found or announced anywhere in this trailer, the follow-up blog, or even the multiplayer overview, which we'll get to shortly. So essentially, this is the worst possible version in my opinion, as it's just taking away from skill jumping altogether without even adding an alternative. This to me really lowers the skill floor. Then you have slide, which from what I've seen, we don't have a clear example of what this looks like from an in-game perspective. So at the moment, I really can't give an opinion on this, but I'll let you know in the future. One thing I can say is that I'm so glad that we no longer have thrusters, Spartan charge, or that goddamn ground pound, because at this point, I can live with sprint. I don't like it, but it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Clamber, I'm not a fan of, and slide I need to see more before I can give a better take on. But this is a massive improvement over Halo 5, which was almost unplayable with everything that the game had going on, at least for me. The next big thing I noticed was the group of Spartans running together as a team and no longer being divided into teams of red or blue. This was confirmed in the follow-up blog, as they are adding a brand new friend and foe system where team colors are no longer required and players will be outlined according to their set preferences. Personally, I like this change. I like the idea of getting rid of red and blue teams, as it never really made sense to me, besides from a team aspect, why my Spartan's color would randomly change. I mean, we've always had the waypoint system, so it's not really going to change that much, and I'm really not going to miss it. This is also good, as they seem to be extremely focused on bringing a sense of identity to your Spartan, kind of making your own personal OC that you'll be able to customize and improve over time as you make it more and more your own. This is a nice touch, giving players their own sense of personal identity. Now, I will say, I really hope this system is as customizable and as clear as they're saying it is, because this is going to be kind of entirely new to Halo, and it might take some players a little time to get used to. But speaking of looks and personal identity and everything else, let's just wind it back a little bit, because I know this is a subject that everyone's going to want to hear my opinion on. But what is my take? What is my opinion on how the Spartans look in Halo Infinite? And if I'm being completely honest, they look good. They look very good. Wait. I don't think that does it justice. I don't think that really puts in perspective. I think they look great. I think they look amazing. No, that doesn't sound right either. That doesn't sound completely authentic. And I know this is gonna rub people the wrong way and this is gonna chap some hides, but if I'm being completely honest, I think they look the best they've ever looked in any Halo game to date. I know that that's gonna piss some people off. That's gonna piss off some classic fans. That's gonna piss off some modern fans. But if I'm being completely honest, they did a fucking hell of a job. Now, am I completely excited about the look of the Spartans? No, because there's one thing that's still chapping my hide that we still haven't gotten full context on, and we'll get onto that in just a minute. But looking at it just from this perspective of the trailer and then the follow-up multiplayer overview, I think they look pretty fucking good. I think that they're definitely a way bigger improvement over Halo 4 and Halo 5 Spartans. I mean, this does have some of those newer elements, but it also has some of the classic elements, but just with better design and graphics. I mean, visually, whenever I was watching the multiplayer overview and I'm watching the Spartan run with the flag and you backing them up with the BR, looking in that undersuit, looking at it from behind, it looks pretty damn good. And some of these guys up front and, in your face look pretty good too. And I know that people are not going to like that. Some people are going to say, oh, you're drinking the Kool-Aid. And some people will say, oh, you're just being hyped. No, this is actually how I feel. And I'm not going to lie about that. I think they look good. I think that they look great. And I think this is probably the best they've looked out of the entire franchise. Now, onto that concern that I was referring to, and I'm sure this isn't surprising, but armor coating is a positive and a negative. It looks absolutely amazing on these armors that you see throughout the showcase, throughout the multiplayer overview, but at the same time, we still don't know how many color options we're gonna have. And one thing that they could have done to ease that tension and ease that fear in people's mind is show us a menu, show us a customization option where you're scrolling through all the colors. Show us all of the colors that we'll have at launch. Be authentic, be truthful with your audience, because this was a big concern last year that we still don't have answers about. I don't want to go into Halo Infinite and have to unlock blue and green or green and blue in a certain color pattern. I just want to have them off the rip. I don't like the idea of having to take colors and turning them into challenges or microtransactions. Now, if it's a cool pattern with a cool texture or something, that I can understand, but the basic colors I should have off the rip from the very get-go. It should be that simple. But again, they dropped the ball on this one, in my opinion, not showing and easing players' minds about the idea of armor coating in Halo Infinite. So now that that opinion is out of the way, let's talk about the next elephant in the room, equipment, which we actually got to see two new pieces of equipment, the threat sensor and the repulsor. Now, the threat sensor, what it does is it reveals sections of the map depending on where it is placed. Now, we don't know if this pulses once, twice, 3 times, we have no clue, but from what I can tell in the actual trailer, it only does it once. Then you have the repulsor, which we see later on in the trailer deflecting a plasma pistol shot and directing it back at its sender. That's pretty cool. Not really sure how I feel about it yet, as I haven't been able to use it, but you do notice after he reflects it, it's still on his arm. Does that mean it's got multiple uses? Who knows? But we also do get to see 2 other pieces of equipment that we've seen before. The drop wall, which we got to see last year during the campaign demo, and we also get to see the grapple shot. Now, the drop wall, again, I like this piece of equipment. It is breakable, it is damageable, it is easily flankable, and I think a lot of people are going to find this as one of preference that people are going to enjoy and see that it's actually pretty balanced. But then we see in the trailer a few seconds later the grapple shot, where we see this being used multiple times. First, he grabs the skewer, pulls it to himself, uses it on the warthog, and then goes and grapples himself up to the wasp and jacks him out of the vehicle. Now, the question is, it's still on his arm as he's jacking him out of the vehicle. Does that mean that he still has it? Is it still in use? Is there another shot of that? Or by the time that animation's over, is it gone? Is it a 2 use? Is it based on a meter? We don't know. And I can't really say, it's all speculation at this point, but I do like the idea of equipment returning to Halo, but at the same time, I hope for fair, balanced usage, not excessive or even in some points being overpowered. Another thing that was prominent in this trailer was the return of Big Team Battle being a mainstay focus of Halo Infinite, as it is getting an upgrade to 24 players or 12v12, which was again not shown here or explained here on the trailer or the showcase, but was explained in the follow-up blog. I'm glad to see Big Team Battle making a prominent return, where in Halo 5 Guardians it was kind of pushed off to the side and replaced by Warzone, which again was not very popular in the Halo community's eyes, because again, the way that it was treated in Halo 5 Guardians was almost like it was a second thought, being basically pushed onto Forge maps instead of having dedicated maps built for it. It was a missed opportunity and a major disappointment with that game, at least for me, but I'm glad to see that it's going to be a main focus and that's getting an improvement instead of just being forgotten or pushed off to the wayside for arena combat alone. One thing that did concern people during this section of the trailer was the use of the word ordnance drop when you see a Pelican bringing in a Banshee. This was a word that was used quite a lot in Halo 4 in the terms of kill streaks. Basically, after a certain amount of kills or assists, you would get the option of an ordnance drop. Whether that was a power weapon, an overshield, or a speed boost, you would have the option of spawning that in wherever you were, and it was basically Call of Duty-esque kill streaks. This is not the case with Halo Infinite. This was denied on Twitter by Unisec. This was just terminology used to make spawning of vehicles and weapons in Halo Infinite's Big Team Battle more fluid, as the commander will be in your ear. This is more of a realistic in-universe explanation instead of a Call of Duty-esque kill streak. And they actually do go more in depth with this with the multiplayer overview, which I will show you a little bit later, but you do get to see the Delta Halo-esque or Regret-esque Halo 2 mission drop pods coming in with weapons. Pretty cool. Nice way to explain it and not just have vehicles spawning out of thin air. But that's basically the key parts that I took away from this trailer. Beyond that, it's a lot of hyping up and a lot of fast-paced shots just showing off key moments of gameplay. Nothing that we can really determine as how Halo Infinite's multiplayer is going to play whenever we get our hands on it later this year. One thing I will say again, and I will repeat this needed more time on the showcase. This needed more context on the showcase. This is your biggest platform and something that should have had more details explained. Give more time to, you know, the people behind the game to explain. Give them the multiplayer overview, which we're about to get into, or at least some of the stuff you explained in the blog post, because one of the biggest things that they explain in the blog post is that we are going to get a full-on training AI bot system in Halo Infinite. Yes, you heard me right. We are getting a full training academy in Halo Infinite where you can do a custom game filled with bots of different difficulties or different skill levels and be able to practice. This is something that if I saw this on the Xbox Game Showcase, I'd be losing my goddamn mind, because this is special. This is something that the community's been asking for a very long time, and something I myself cannot wait to use and get better at the game game, and for other players that are just getting into Halo to be able to join the Halo community and play multiplayer without feeling like they're being totally curb stomped. That is why the blog post that you saw more and more factors come into this analysis was so prominent and so important, because there were so many details that they put in the blog post that weren't here on the showcase. Your big platform. I recommend you watch the trailer, you watch the multiplayer overview, you watch the blog post, because this stuff should have been on the showcase. It should have been there. This is, again, your big franchise, your big game of the year, and you're leaving out a lot of great details that would make players excited. Now, the very next day, we got the Halo Infinite multiplayer overview, which, again, there's so many details, so many things that would have given players a better judgment of how Halo Infinite's multiplayer is going to play that you can see in this overview alone. Does it give you a perfect perspective? No, but does it give you a lot of details and a lot of better glimpses than the trailer did? Yes, because this is something that I think should have been the main showcase. This is something that would have really built the excitement, and something that just made me as excited as hearing about the training AI was the fact about the battle pass. Now, usually when you hear about battle passes, it's nothing good. It's just another microtransaction, just another easy way for a company to make money. But here's the difference with Halo Infinite, and what kind of slaps Activision and EA in the face: this one never expires. That's right, this battle pass never expires, and you're never going to have the fear of missing out in Halo Infinite. You can always pick this up later on. You don't have to buy the battle pass during season 1. You don't have to buy the season 1 battle pass during season 2. You can always go back and complete those seasons. Yes, there is a cost from what I can tell, but it will never go away. You will never miss out on these opportunities, which is such a good consumer idea. Yes, they make money off of it, but at the same time, you're not rushing your players to stay on the game. You're not forcing them to stay on the game and just constantly be grinding to get the battle pass done in a certain amount of time. You're giving power back in the players' hands, but also giving them what they want: rewards, options. And there will be options for rewards, not just through the battle pass, but through challenges and other in-game options. Now, this to me made me excited, where one more thing that I saw made me very concerned, and that was ADS on the assault rifle and kneeler. This does not make me very happy, as I am very much a stickler when it comes to ADS being on particular weapons, prominently weapons that we aren't used to ADS being on. And we saw this being in Halo 5, and I wasn't a fan of it because of how much it increased the actual range of the weapon. Now, that doesn't seem to be the case, but again, I can't make a judgment on it until I get my hands on the flight or the actual game itself. I'm very concerned by this and seeing this, but again, I can't make a judgment call until I get my hands on it. Another point of concern, at least in my opinion, is the fact that now power-ups like active camo and overshield are no longer pick up and use. They're pick up and pick when you use. Now, to me, this, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I hate it. I can't really say. I definitely can tell you it's different, but until I get my hands on it, see how it plays out in a 1v1 fight. I mean, not even the one they show on screen between the two players does it justice. I want to see, whenever I pick it up, if there is a little meter that shows how much invulnerability you're going to have when the animation goes through. We don't know this, and again, they took away so many of the HUD elements during this overview and the multiplayer trailer that you can't really put anything in perspective. Does it seem new? Yes. Is it an interesting idea? Possibly. But how will it play out? I don't know. We're just gonna have to wait and see when we get the flight later this year or the game. Now, bringing it back to new things that I actually do like, the Razorback. I like the Razorback. It's a really cool concept where basically you're taking the Warthog and upgrading it in certain ways. You're upgrading the armor, the amount of people that you can fit in it, but you're also balancing it out by lowering the speed, and you're also not having the gunner. You can also store power weapons, items, and so on and so forth in the compartments in the back, but you do have that trade-off of lower damage output but more versatility, I guess you could say, in a way. It's really cool, but the amount of vehicles that we saw throughout these trailers also kind of made me excited. Seeing the return of the chopper made me excited. This was my favorite vehicle of all time. This outdoes the mongoose, the warthog, the banshee, the ghost. This is my number one vehicle. The way it felt back in the original Halo 3, the way that it turned in to, you know, spin around, or the way it would bank into the dirt. It was such a good vehicle, and I'm excited to see it back. I'm excited to see a lot of these vehicles make a comeback, including the Wasp, which was something that was in Halo 5 Guardians that I did like. I liked the Wasp. It was an interesting vehicle that wasn't super overpowered, but also had a lot of damage output while also being very easy to eliminate. That one is a vehicle that I'm excited to see return in Halo Infinite. I know that this video is going on and I seem to be repeating myself quite a bit or going all over the place, but there was so much to talk about, and unfortunately I probably missed a few things. If I did, feel free to bring it up in the comment section down below, and maybe I will cover it in a future video. Overall, what are my actual thoughts about Infinite right now? Well, they're definitely better than they were a year ago. I was definitely not sold in 2020 with what we saw during the campaign gameplay, but now I'm definitely feeling a lot more excited and a lot more open to the idea of getting into Halo Infinite. Is it a perfect option? No. There are things and elements I don't like, but is it terrible? Is it as bad as Halo 5 or Halo 4? No. Nowhere even close. Again, I do need to get my hands on it before I can make that judgment call, but it does look really good overall. Visually, gameplay wise, it all seems to be melding together to be a good game from campaign to multiplayer. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see when we get the flight later this summer from what they're saying, and later this year for the full retail release. But those are just my thoughts and opinions. What are yours? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And also, again, let me know if I missed anything that you would like to hear me talk about in a full video. I would love to dedicate some time to some of these topics or elements that you saw or picked out throughout the trailer. So let me know down in the comment section down below. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you for your patience and understanding on how long this took to make. And as always, GamerJlee signing out. Frag